Good afternoon. Welcome back to the Philosophical Institute of Religious Inquiries program dealing with God's creative sources in our lives. We are just really excited today to have our guests. But first, I'd like to say I am Archbishop Dr. Dolores Harley Eel, one of the ministers of the Philosophical Institute of Religious Inquiry, Inc. at 1743 Candler Road, Decatur, Georgia, 332. You can always reach us at 404-386-0574. We have some revolutionary things to share with you this season, and we are so grateful to be back at Wayne TV, one of the premier stations that is streaming live over your internet. We thank God for you, and right now I'd like to introduce you to our very special guest. We've been trying to get him on for almost a year. This is Archbishop John H. Lewis, and he not only is a native Atlantean, he is our historian, he is our documentarian, if that's a word. You know, I love making up words. And he is going to talk to us about Sankofa, the Sankofa ministry that he has. He is the prelate and the spiritual wizard over the African Orthodox Catholic Church worldwide. We were sitting here, he didn't have his kufi on, so I told him to wrap his tie around his head. Archbishop, please greet our listeners and our onlookers, because this is a very special time. And when we get into talking about your vision that God has given you, I know many of them would want to call in, but we're not taking phone calls today.
Greetings, Archbishop, and to all of the persons wherever you are who are viewing this very fine program. It is certainly a privilege and pleasure to be here with you today.
I'm not hearing your mic. Take mine.
Well, we want to begin by saying greetings to you and to all of your viewers, and thank you so much for having us to be one of your guests today. Thank you so much.
You're more than welcome, and this is his field. Archbishop Lewis was a forerunner for many of us here in the Atlanta area. Our local radio station, WYZE, is one of the feathers in his cap that back in the day when he was only about 3 years old, he got started. He has been instrumental in consecrating many bishops across this nation, and also ordaining many people. We are ordained, Archbishop R.W. Eel and I were privileged to be consecrated Archbishop by him at one of his cathedrals, and we give thanks. But rather than prolong it, I want to just get right into the vision. First, could you give us a little background on what you're going to talk to us about today?
Well, I'm sort of following your lead on this, because we both agreed earlier that it would not be scripted, that we would just allow Spirit to lead us and to guide us. But certainly as a part of the overall vision for what we are calling Africa Town, we know the foundation of it has to be spiritual. Anything that we do has to have that spiritual foundation and base to it. I have been bishop consecrated in the African Orthodox Catholic Church in 1970, and from that time to this time I have been the spiritual leader of that movement. And what has evolved out of that is the idea for a literal, a physical place that we can call Africa Town in Atlanta, which both of us know is not anything new for us as a people. But in our recent history, this will certainly be when once up and running, and it is up and running now. I mean, I sent out an email today on my Facebook saying that Africa Town is alive and well.
Exactly.
And this is where we are to believe that if you can have Italian towns and Greek towns and China towns and all of these other things, as our ancestors before us believed, that we can have those areas and communities that are designated for our own economic growth and development as a people as well.
I know that you're kind of shy, but I want to I would just like to give a little background on the efforts that are not new here. Several years ago, Bishop Lewis was on Nightline with Ted Koppel, and part of what he was dealing with was how the West End was being gentrified, and we were losing our martyrs. The name of
Dr. John Hope.
Dr. John Hope was being eradicated by somebody's name that nobody could identify with. There were other avenues in Fair Street and off of Northside Drive and Martin Luther King Drive that were being just moved out of the way for other things to happen. Bishop Lewis called together scholars, representatives from the state, and had an overall program to allow people to voice their opinions on what was happening. And from there, the vision came. We won't even talk about the negatives that went on at that point. But with every negative, a positive comes out of it. That's where I'm going with this. So rather than keep fighting City Hall to recognize that we built this town, it was ours to start with. A lot of important things came out about land that people didn't know belonged to the historical black colleges. Sections of town had been renamed, and the people who lived there didn't know it had been renamed. Out of that came, to me, the vision to go back to basics, when at one time we had our own drugstores, we had our own grocery stores, we had our own transportation companies, as well as media. And the station that we're on right now is, to me, part of that vision, where we not only see how we are regaining what God has given to us.
The very first radio station owned by people of color was WERD in Atlanta,
right,
which no longer exists. That was the very first station that I had my very first program on.
Exactly.
And it no longer exists. And I'm excited about Wayne TV and radio and what they're doing now, because we know the power that the internet has for not only reaching people locally but globally. So I'm really excited about this.
And this isn't per chance. When God gives you a vision, and while we were sitting here, I was thinking about how many years ago, thousands of years ago, we read in the Old Testament how people came in to take our land and claim it for themselves and say God told them to do it. Right. And yet we stand. We still stand. And we stand on the shoulders of those who had the vision to keep our race and our people going. And that spiritual portion of it is what we celebrate with Africa Town. Tell us more about Africa Town.
In more recent years, Archbishop, I can even look at and go back to my own family and my ancestors on my father's side especially. The last illegal ship of persons that were brought to this country from Africa came to Mobile in 1865. And on that ship was a Cudjoe Lewis and others who were my ancestors, who were on that ship, who at that time founded and started in 1865, Africa Town, in a little place called Magazine Town, right at Pritchett and Mobile in that area,
Mm-hmm.
in 1865, and it formally existed until 1953. And we can think about, so this is really nothing new.
Mm-hmm.
This is going back and recreating, because we know that if we have been and we are a great people, and what has been done before can be done again. We have the prototypes for it. We have Tulsa, the Greenwood area in Tulsa. We have the Auburn Avenue area. In Atlanta. We can go back to the area in Detroit around Hastings Street. In every major city and hamlet in America, there were those areas, those economic areas that were controlled by people of African descent.
Exactly.
Yes.
And in celebrating who we are, it's not separating us from any other culture. It's just saying that we can be who we need to be.
And we need to be who we are.
Exactly.
And not always feel that we have to make excuses or apologies
exactly.
for being who we are.
Exactly.
Yes.
And this morning we had a conversation about even the farmers are struggling to hold on. Most of us don't realize that land is power and that we are the land. Even walking barefoot, we energize ourselves from the breast of Mother Earth. It said in the Bible how God scooped up the red dirt and formed. And so therefore, going back to being entrepreneurs or all these big words or whatever, or just doing what we do. We have people that come from on the background of people who couldn't read and write, that created dynasties. We have one young man that his grandfather wouldn't be hired during a certain time of integration. And what he did, he prayed about it, God gave him a vision, and he opened up a chicken farm. Off of 3 little chickens, he set a dynasty. And to motivate people to quit relying on other people to identify them, but use the God-given talents. And many times people go, well, we need money. Well, we all need something to get ourselves a start. When we start coming together and trusting each other, we can help each other do this.
In fact, money is not our problem.
No.
When we think about how much money we spend as a people,
are we the largest spenders?
We are the largest among people in spending and consumers.
Yes.
So if we think in terms of all of the monies that pass through our hands, it has been said, and I have the statistics for it, but 9 times out of 10, our money goes through our hands and to someone else.
Exactly.
And with other cultures, it stays in their communities 4, 5, 9, and 10 times before it ever leaves the community.
Exactly.
And this is because of the colonization of our minds and feeling that we have to spend every dime that we get. But our ancestors didn't think like that. They believed that if you make a certain amount of money, so much of that was to be saved and to be invested. And they invested it in worthy causes.
Exactly.
This is the reason we had the businesses and groups. I mean, the institutions that we have in this city and other cities across this country and the world.
Exactly.
Because they pooled their resources together. Together. They did it together.
And it wasn't better. And I'm even thinking about, when you're talking about consumers and so forth, how at one time shopping in the West End was a delight.
Indeed.
I don't know who owned the malls and things, but we participated. We had our own style. We didn't need to look at anybody else's style to feel important.
Exactly.
The hats, I'm a hat person, and the furs and things that we stood out in. and now trying to get our children to pull their pants up and pull their dresses down is a feat. We didn't start that.
Historically, for our people talking about Atlanta in particular, the very property on Peachtree Street, at the corner of Peachtree and Auburn Avenue, historically was owned by an African woman by the name of Mary Coombs.
Yes.
Who owned that entire block that she sold to gain the freedom of her husband.
Yes.
And other areas, up and down Decatur Street, there were businesses. There were black businesses all over the downtown area historically back at the turn of the last century. And when we had the riot in Atlanta, that was when things began to change. But we've had historically, Auburn Avenue was considered the wealthiest street in the world for people of color. I can remember vividly, having been born in Atlanta, being a native Atlantan, it was a delight on any given day, and especially on Monday morning, to see the proud men and women who were dressed going to their places of business and opening up their shops, their restaurants, the banks, the insurance companies, the mortgage companies, all the clothing stores, all of the things that we had on Martin Luther King and on Auburn Avenue that no longer exist. But they were there.
I would like to just kind of to bring it up to where we are now. Would you give the address of where Sankofa is?
We are located at 1550 Ralph David Abernathy in southwest Atlanta. We have presently we are occupying a portion of a building that we're hoping to be able to buy and control the entire block. That's what we're in the process of doing, and buying both the building that we're in and other properties that are available in that area, so that economically we can have that base of businesses in that community that are controlled by people of African American descent.
Now, how is this any different? And maybe I'm bringing up a lot of things today that I normally don't. How is this any different than when people come in from other countries, and I consider them part of who we are, like the people who are coming in from India? Since we travel to India, we know that the middle class is just being formed there. But when they come in, they might work in a donut shop, and the next thing you know, they pulled their resources and have purchased another one, or a Baskin and Robbins, or even down to there's a cab company that started when I first came here. It was a blessing for me to learn from a brother from Ethiopia whose father was an exiled Supreme Court judge there. And he took what his vision was and bought his first car and became a taxi driver. And whenever anyone came from Ethiopia, they were automatically empowered to have a job. In fact, Solomon is in Washington, D.C. now, and I send him lots of love because
I remember him vividly, and even in years before that, we had quick service trip, any number, super cab. We had any number of cab businesses. Even in Atlanta at one time, there were brothers, the Cox brothers, who had their own bus company.
Wow. And
they were banned from having it because at that time Georgia Power owned the transportation in Atlanta.
Wow.
And the Cox brothers actually, especially on the west side, would carry, because there was no public transportation into the Dixie Hill, Westlake, Collier Heights area during that time. And those brothers actually had their own bus business that they would bring people into downtown Atlanta from those areas. In addition to the cab companies that we had all over the city, which no longer exists. Atlanta Car for Hire, which was the conglomerate of all of the black cab companies at that time, it no longer exists. And that was a multi-million-dollar corporation and business at one time in this area that no longer exists because they've been bought out and co-opted by others who come into our communities and and we've just allowed it to happen. We've sat by complacently and allowed the businesses that were historically ours and controlled by us to be controlled by others who come in. I mean, I'm not against any people or any race of people. I'm just pro my people. I'm that.
And the empowerment of having your own and creating jobs. We're hearing so much about there are no jobs and goods being made overseas and how they're beating up on our president because he went in and took over a thing of garbage, and he's trying to turn it into a thing of good works. And so with Africatown, creating space where maybe I don't have a lot of things, but I know how to crochet, and I can offer that to someone.
And that's one of the things that we want to do. Maybe a person is not able to rent, per se, a space for his or her vision. But what we're doing is we want to serve as an umbrella, as a place where businesses can be birthed and born out of, to have an address, to have a phone number, to have a place to receive mail, just a place that would be there so that persons who are desiring. Yes, we know that there are businesses all over Atlanta. We know that there are, because there are those who will say, well, yes, there are African American businesses all over the city. But what I'm saying is we need to have that concentrated area where we can be seen trading with each other. You mentioned the black farmers earlier.
Yes.
That is one of the things that we're planning to do in having our market. Our African market is on Friday and Saturday to have those farmers to drive in from South Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina with their vegetables and their fruits to be able to sell them on the parking lot of our market. That's one of the things that we're planning to do.
What made me think about it was one of our members lives in St. Mary's, and when I asked him what he did for Labor Day, did they cook out and whatever, he said, Dr. Eel, he said, I had the biggest watermelon I had ever seen in my life. I said, you did. He had gone up to Charleston, where his family was. He said, what I did was split it in half and gave my wife half for her and her sister, and me and my cousin ate the other half. He said, but it was raised in Georgia. And he's used to farming. And he said he had never tasted a watermelon that sweet. And I told him, I said, wait till I tell Bishop that you ate a watermelon, didn't bring him a piece of it. These are things that we need to promote.
Yes, we do need to promote them. Yes, we do.
And
think about
getting
the others
healthy.
that are like this brother. Yes.
And getting healthy. We promote at the Institute healthy eating. Organic. You don't have to pay extra money at these different supermarkets for organic. You can grow organic in a flower pot.
Exactly. On your windowsill.
Healthy eating that isn't polluted with pesticides and all of these sort of things. We as a people, as I said, are the land.
And there are a couple of community gardens that are in our area that we're hoping also to promote and to also become a part of this idea, this concept. And there are others, not only, yes, we are doing this, but there are others who've also envisioned and have also seen this happening, but we're just waiting on somebody to come forth with it. So we are appealing to those persons who are out there watching us today or listening, whichever the case may be, to come and to be a part of what it is that we're doing with this whole concept of Africatown, which is a holistic concept. It is not just economic and business. We said it's also spiritual.
Yes.
Because we are a spiritual people. Our religion or our spirituality was taken from us when we came. But thanks be to God for the remembrance of our ancestors who held on Down in my mother's hometown in Pine Mountain, they had what they called the. They would go to the church in the daytime, but they had their brush arbor, where they went out into the fields in the evenings and at night and had their rituals out there.
And that's what I was going to say. Once we understand how religion has taken us away, I don't want to get on that.
No, not today.
But we are spiritual
we
people.
Are spiritual
and
people.
The same thing you're talking about your mother. Our first ordaining bishop, Supreme Bishop Robert Hodo from Tauberton, where the owner of this station is from, who says he's just a country boy. That's my brother Lewis Jackson. Talked about how they would steal away and come back with hope, because Spirit had given them a vision. And even before he left here and went to Chicago, he talked about how that hope brought him up to the Marietta area to work for a friend of his who couldn't work. And from there, he traveled on. Here's a person that spoke Latin and tells you about taking castor oil and how they planted and God blessed and blessed. My mother-in-law, when she left Alabama, took the understanding of Spirit with her and had a garden every year. She grew the biggest cabbages, the collard greens. One would feed all 8 of her children and her husband by speaking to the Spirit, by speaking to the Spirit of Mother Earth, and entertaining the God in her to get what was needed, the creativity that came to her. None of us could understand how she could raise 8 children, make her own soap, and none of them had bad skin,
Exactly.
and whatever, and still maintain her dignity.
They did that.
And these are the things that at the Institute we try and teach our children.
To promote those ideas and concepts.
Right. And this week on our Wednesday night call, which we invite all of you to come to, Wednesday night at 8:30 at area code 218-339-2500, PIN number 1075483#. We talked about how we got to a place in our culture that manual labor was degrading. And my thing is, somebody had to scrub a floor for me to get to where I am. So I'm not too good to scrub a floor if necessary. And a lot of times when you're doing things, that's when Spirit is really speaking to you and working with you. So coming back into the consciousness of community.
You know, I love that word community, because when you look at it, you have communion, you have communication, and when we come back to thinking about our actually being a community, holistically, as a people, which includes the totality of who we are.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'm excited about that.
Exactly. And to me, we've already gone through where they've X'd us out, Generation X or whatever, no such thing. And I understand the principle of X.
I know you do.
Is now to start. Last night, if you noticed the baby at church, they'd go to a huge church. They've been coming, visiting us. And you saw that baby when it was time to open up the crossroads, come and pay her duty and fall prostrate on the floor. A 3-year-old. Is she learning to be in her heritage? Her 6-year-old brother, you saw him come and...
You know, it is my belief, and I know that you share this as well, that baby at age 2 or 3 has come into this earth experience since all of us have come. And she still remembers.
Exactly.
And if she hasn't gone through the process of being colonized and that kind of thing, where she has to unlearn a lot of the things that we've had to unlearn, but she actually naturally just fell right in, and I looked at her and I said, "There's an old soul there,
exactly,
who knows exactly what to do."
She's named after her great grandmother.
Wonderful.
Yes,
Wonderful.
And the part that I felt really good about, she didn't lay prostrate on the other side. She came and laid down where I was. I said, "That's my child."
I saw that.
I'm saying that to say, it says in Joel, and we had a program dealing with this, teach the children both day and night.
Right.
If we look at the ones who have our heritage, they go to their children at night and speak blessings over them.
Mm-hmm. That was what happened with me. My grandmother, especially in the summer and the winter, in the summertime, we didn't have air conditioning, so we couldn't. Many nights we couldn't sleep.
Mm-hmm.
So she would tell the stories.
Yes.
She'd be busy fanning and telling the stories of what happened down in Chipley, which is now Pine Mountain, Georgia.
All right.
She was telling me all of the stories about her ancestors, her grandfather, her father and mother, her grandparents on both sides, and all of the customs that they had cherished and had kept from their African ancestry. And earlier in my life, those things, I listened to them, and there was an interest in it. But the older that I became, and I'm becoming at this point, the more I am interested in it, and now things are beginning to come back to me that I did not remember before. And now what I'm doing is recollecting these ideas and stories of our ancestors, and they are powerful. And we've got to tell them to our children. That's what they did. That was the point. The scriptures say that we are to tell them to the generation that are following. So we must tell the stories to our children. And that's another thing that we're doing with our Africa Town project, is also we have a school.
Yes.
We have a program. We have, in addition to the performing arts, we are in the process of also having a regular school for children from age 3 and 4 up through high school. That is a part of what our concept is also, because we must have our own institutions and to teach our children. We must have.
And not try to rewire them to someone else's understanding. When you're talking about that in my family, they'll say, "Oh, she acts like grandma or mama," who would speak. And if you did something wrong, you didn't go around her, because she would tell you, you should, and you'd want to cover your head, because she would be prophesying to you. And I can remember getting my hair wrapped as a child. We don't know how to wrap hair anymore. I learned from a Nigerian young lady years ago when they were going through their war how to wrap. My grandmother would take carpet thread and wrap my hair. I was born bald, and to get my hair to grow, she would just go and pull out a little piece and take that, and I'd have all these little things that we make fun of with the little rascals and buckwheat. And I'd have all these little squigglies. And so I had the opportunity to have sisters, and I would take different color thread, and they were so proud to have all these little things in their hair.
When you mentioned the hair, brought back this as a part. Mimi was what we call my mother's mother.
All right.
Some nights we would have various experiments, and one experiment that I remember vividly is that she would have us take a comb, and back during the day, I'm really going to date myself now, with wax paper. But tear up the wax paper.
They still sell it.
Oh, do they? Well, I'm not in the kitchen, so I don't. But they would take wax paper and tear it up and have you to comb your hair real fast and look at the magnetic energy.
Exactly.
As it when you would comb your hair, it would pick up the paper on the comb, which says that there is energy, there is power.
Yes.
And what is it that they're always keeping us messing with, so to speak? Is our hair.
Hair.
You know,
exactly.
Every kind of style, every kind of whatever, because it is known that our power and our strength is in that hair.
It's in the hair. Exactly. So we're on the same page, and these are the things that we're sharing with the people not only on this program, but call somebody and have them go into the archives to pull up Religious Inquiry to see how we as and I'm saying people, human people, can help each other. The idea for Sankofa isn't just for the Atlanta area. It's for Butte, Montana. It's for
The diaspora.
exactly wherever it is.
Brother Mariamar in Washington, D.C., they are also in the process of formulating this concept there. Also, Bishop Collins in Fort Worth, Texas, is also in the process of implementing this same program. And we cannot forget, in addition to my ancestors in Alabama, we also have to remember our brother Claude Anderson, who attempted this same idea and concept in the Detroit area.
Yes.
During the time that he was doing it, I was not aware that he was even doing it.
And that's something.
But visiting again, revisiting, and because our main cathedral is in Detroit.
Right.
And revisiting once again in that area, I discovered what he is doing, and I'm sending out also my love and energy to Dr. Claude Anderson, who has been a great exponent of this concept as well. In addition to our brother Amos Wilson, who wrote Our Real Guide. In addition to the books that were written by Dr. Chancellor Williams, The Blueprint for Black Power, which he says is a moral, political, and economic imperative for the 21st century. We're using this as our guide in implementing this whole Africa Town concept.
And I appreciate you sharing that with it. And you know we're doing it in the DeKalb County area, teaching, reading, even our brothers and sisters that are coming in, we teach English as a second language. We're promoting free enterprise. We have a product that is just so dynamic that we're all sitting here. Bishop has 2 on the back of his ears. They're patches with no medicine that are healing his ears. He's had a hearing problem. I won't tell you how long, because then you'll know how old he is. But it's more than 12 years, all right? That we're able to stand up and walk with. They told us we have to take all this medicine to poison our system. And there's this patch that has energy. You've experienced
Yes,
it.
Indeed, I have.
And to put us back. And if you heard on the way over here, my sister, who's a physical therapist, was admonishing me because I told her I'm getting ready to go out and dig up my backyard and do some things. Well, yeah, you just know I am what God is.
You mentioned earlier about what's happening in the DeKalb area. What I also want to emphasize is that not only are we doing Africa Town in the West End, but as a part of what's going on in Decatur, we want to do what is called Africa Town East and West, because we cannot forget Auburn Avenue.
Exactly.
And we cannot forget what happened in the Martin Luther King area. So both East and West, we have expanded into the area. And historically, when we go all the way back, our people have lived on all of that land anyway. We lived on that land in all of those areas historically in the beginning. When I think about, especially in the West End, the civilized Africa, the civilized Native American tribes that were on that land long before anybody else came to this country. We were already here.
And Stone Mountain.
And you introduced to me. I've gone through that area, but never before until this past weekend with you and Bishop. We were able to go to Arabia Mountain,
right?
Which I had the opportunity to experience this weekend, which I discovered is even older than Stone Mountain.
See, and the energies there, just to go and sit by that, those energies allow the spiritual part of you to travel back.
Exactly.
See, we need to teach who we are and not be ashamed of who we are.
Exactly.
God gives us visions to go forward.
Exactly.
And be productive. Now, I'm not going to do another big commercial on LifeWave, but if you need to know more about how you can get rid of your arthritis and diabetic problems and all the stuff they put on you that is not yours, I want you to know that. Give us a call at 404-386-0574. I want to take the time remaining to reach out to all of the people around the world who are viewing this and who will view this. Tell us how we can come together and help support the efforts of the vision that God has given.
Those persons who are viewing us, who are interested in this whole concept, as we said earlier, we are not just doing it here, but this is also this is serving as a module or as a prototype for others who want to do this same thing all over the world. But it is our feeling, and it was brought to my attention by one of our brothers in Chicago, and also Brother Marimar, you hear me mention him over and over, in the Washington area, that Atlanta needs to be the model for more than one reason. And those persons who want to join us in this vision can do so by sending whatever contributions you'd like to the Africa Town Project. Our address is 1550 Ralph David Abernathy, South Boulevard, Southwest, Atlanta 30303. We also have a page, a Facebook page. My Facebook page is John H. Lewis, and we also have the Sankofa Cultural Center page, and I believe there's an Africa Town page that's under the process of being developed. Also, emails, lwjohn7 at AOL.com as well as my how you can reach me.
I appreciate that, and I also want to say, when you're saying that Atlanta needs to be the prototype, all the research and on the marketing on how to get people to come into the area, I don't want to leave that out. This is nothing that's just haphazard. This is put together as a business model for each one teaching one and helping the other one get out of peril. We have a lot of people who rely on public assistance. We have more and more people trying to get SSI than ever before as a way to help themselves, and I'm not knocking it, because if they're not being helped, I don't know how people live on SSI checks. I really don't. For the ones that we work with at the Philosophical Institute, there is no way you can live on $600 or $700 a month. But see, this is government control too. It goes back to the 60s when they put the population in where they could be gotten to at any time. We'll go through that in another time. But to be able to control, you can't live on $600 or $700, and the rent, not mortgage, but rent starts at $800 and $1,200.
You know, you said something that caused a bell to go off in my head. I can remember vividly when my grandmother was old enough to receive an old age pension or Social Security. I don't remember which one it was at this particular time. But she didn't want it because she said she didn't want to be controlled. Her idea and concept was that God has always taken care of me.
Yes.
And she was able to do work, the kind of work that she did. She had her own little business where she did various things in the community, where she took in children and washing and ironing and those kinds of things, and had her own business. And when my mother said, well, you can get this check every month, she said, I don't want it.
See?
And I can see that mindset that she was not going to be controlled
exactly
by the government, so to speak.
Exactly. this is something that we're teaching.
We're teaching this.
How to use creative mind to be independent. Mm-hmm. On this show, we've had people with various things. We've had Reverend Anita Jordan with her glassworks that it's unique. We've had Brother David Bay on that revolutionized the thinking on being put out of your house. Mm-hmm. And he and this other gentleman sued Bank America to stop the evictions off of property. Wow. We've had other people, and he's helping to work with the Brazilians on the Olympics. We've had many people come up. Here we go with how is it not only supporting financially, each project needs to have substance. That's just the short and the long of it. We don't come begging, we come buying. We're offering opportunity to people to quit being controlled. And even though we work with people who are homeless, we go back and forth. When did we know homeless in our community? There were people who chose to separate themselves, but they didn't have to. We have mothers under the bridges. Over 18,000 of our children in the metro area are in foster homes because their families can't take care of them. We have all of these things that are our shame.
And historically, in our culture, there were no institutions of that kind.
Exactly.
Because the village
took care
of them. In not any African language could you find a word for a nursing home.
Exactly.
Or for an orphanage.
Exactly.
Because there was no such thing. Now, of course, during the process of colonization and so forth, and coming in contact with others, we have changed somewhat. But historically, we've always taken care of our own, and this is what we've got to do again.
We have an incident, and I was thinking of when I was growing up, I was the kid that belonged to everybody on the block in Pittsburgh. And there was next door Granny Sullivan. Oh, she baked the best rolls every morning. I'd go stay over there just to have a roll and oatmeal, and I hate oatmeal. But one of her sons was an alcoholic. Back in those days, it was a drunk. Being 19, I can say that. Charles always had a home. He would stagger home, and he knew that the door was going to be locked, but nobody put him out. His brother and sister helped take care of him. He had a problem. Whatever it was, I was too young to know. But there was always a place for somebody. I lived in a house with 3 or 4 generations.
So did I.
It was, there was always room for one more. We, as a people, can come back together.
And we must.
In order to claim that which is ours. I hear over and over again about us taking over and running this and running. We can't even run our own affairs a lot of times because we have lost our heritage of spirituality and divine mind. Mm-hmm. We don't listen to first mind anymore.
Exactly.
We go out haphazardly because it's popular. Mm-hmm. But when we come together, what do old folks say, when we all come together?
Yeah, we all get together.
What a time, what a time, what a time.
Yes, indeed.
So we're appealing to all of you, and call your friends. Let them look at this taping on where we're going. It's not separatism. Many people fought and died to be integrated. But now it's time to use that which we learned to come back and build, which we had. Aren't we the ones that started with, as we were talking about playing with diamonds and things, they were just rocks.
Exactly.
And gold and all that.
With diamonds and gold.
Stuff that wasn't important to us because it was so plentiful. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden it became a commodity and we had to have it, mm-hmm. which we already had it. So coming back together, using our talents, we create jobs.
Exactly.
We create security.
Mm-hmm.
Kids breaking into homes. That I don't watch television that often because it hurts me to see people that don't care whether they live or die.
Last night in church, you did something that was most inspirational to me. When you did the African History Moment.
Oh, yes.
And talked about the film producer.
Yes.
And you named, I can't recollect or remember his name. His last name was Johnson, I think.
Right. Out of Missouri.
The type movies.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at the kinds of slapstick, the kinds of things that our people are doing now
mm-hmm.
in 2011,
mm-hmm.
And we have a nerve to talk about Paul Robeson and the Great White Hope and the things
Hattie
McDaniel and those back
mm-hmm.
during that time, and we look at some of the stuff in 2011 that's being produced and called cultural.
You all look at it.
I don't
pay my money out to see this stuff.
I refuse to look at it. But when you look at a person of African descent
who had his own
production company,
yes.
and actually did the Ten Commandments, that's what struck out in my mind
last
night.
In the 1920s.
Before Cecil DeMille even thought about
it. Exactly.
And the Garvey, and during the Garvey era.
Yes.
When we think about the Harlem Renaissance.
Yes.
That was inspired by, I'm a fourth generation Garveyite and serve as the international chaplain for the UNIA.
Yes.
When I think about that era, and the poems, the Conte Cullen, and all of
yes.
the ones who back during that time,
yes.
Paul Laurence Dunbar, and all of the ones, Paul Robeson, Marian Anderson. When I think about all of those,
mm-hmm.
and then look at what we're doing today,
yes.
we can do it again.
Yes.
And we're going to do it again.
The
quality.
Yes.
Is what it's about.
Yes.
And we need to recreate films and movies and things that show our people in their greatness.
Exactly.
That's my point exactly. I had to go all the way around Moody's Barn maybe to come to that. But we need to show our greatness as opposed to how silly we have been. We need to stop degrading ourselves.
Yes.
And allowing ourselves to be cast in all of these various stereotypical postures. I just think it's the most ridiculous thing.
Just go on and say it. You got to take your clothes off,
exactly.
and you got to be in bed with everybody else, and whatever. That's not who we are.
That's not who we are. The language, the cursing, all of that. That's not who we are. Historically, that is
exactly.
not who we are.
Exactly.
And with this whole idea of what we're doing, not only here in Atlanta, but what we're hoping to develop all over the world, is to recreate and to go back to who we were in the beginning.
I want to just, we're like 30 seconds. I want to say that Africa Town is also being set up in Africa, in Ghana. Brother Prempeh that's over there,
yes,
that is doing this also.
He's also there.
So it's not just
in Kumasi.
Yes, it's not just here, but we're all over the world.
And somebody say, well, Africa Town in Africa, yes, they were colonized just before we were.
Yes, yes.
So we're going back and recreating who we were and redeveloping back in that area as well.
I want to say thank you to Archbishop Lewis for coming on, sharing with us. We hope that he'll come back and also do programs here so you could keep up with him. Please send him a letter. If you don't have anything but $1, put it in there and say, I believe in your idea, and come and participate with the Philosophical Institute of Religious Inquiry, with the Sankofa Village. We love you and we bless you, and we give thanks to God for you. And we say peace. And so it is. God bless you, loving.
Thank you.
Thank you.